Hi, this is Paul Wilkinson here. This is a video looking at Vaughan Williams' Fifth Symphony, analysing some of the structure, looking at some of the orchestration, looking at how the piece moves and is developed, looking at some of the key centres. This was written around 1943, so it is a product of the time, very different from the Fourth Symphony that came before it. Vaughan Williams follows a kind of a classic structure really, what we call an exposition with a first subject. Then there's this exposition to a second subject, and then there's a short development of one theme, followed by a short development of the second theme. We get a recap of that first subject, that first melodic material, which is then extended on the second subject before the coda, or we could call it an ending. So I'm just going to run it with the score so you can see it in front of you, and just talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening. Try and analyse them as best we can, because we can't see them through his eyes, so we can sort of have a look at it and see if we can make some judgments about some of the decisions he's making. If you're an improviser or a composer, you may find this really interesting to look at the economical use of his ideas, how he's just moving a few thematic materials around. It's also interesting to look at how he uses different key centres and creates different tension via the circle of fifths, so we can talk a little bit about that as well as the piece goes along. I think it took Vaughan Williams quite some time to decide on what the key this movement should be in. Eventually he settled on the key of D, when you examine the score a little closer, as you'll see as we move along, it's got a lot more dissonances than your average sort of 18th and 19th century symphony. The first movement, for the most part, has got rather a sinister undertone really, and that could be to do with what's going on in the bass, and we'll talk a little bit about that as the piece moves along. So do bear that in mind. It's in D, but it's not as clear cut as you might think. So anyway, let's have a look at the score now, and I'll talk about it as we go along. So the symphony begins with those low strings and that horn-like call, almost like a victorious city in a way. And the strings answer it with this high theme. We have the C in the basses, although it looks as though we've got a one sharp, and Vaughan Williams put this in the key of D major. We are definitely playing around with what we call the D mixolydian scale around this point here, and that C in the bass creates tension. The woodwind have come in now. There's another theme developed, that strings with that dotted crotchet semiquaver rhythm. You'll see that a great deal throughout this piece. Just before there we heard the French horns and the bassoons. If you're an orchestrator, they work magically stacked on top of one another together. You'll see that falling triplet in the strings that repeats a number of times. Consort with mute. There we have the horns again. There's the strings. Just look ahead on this page here. We're about to go into the key of C. It looks as though we are. In come the woodwind. Still exploring that bass pattern in the lower strings. There's the horn chord again. You keep hearing that calling. There's the string section again that we've heard earlier on. Still the repetitive bass sighing away. There's a triplet pattern. Listen carefully as we change key here. Beautiful moment. That's lovely. Hard to tell what key we're in here. We could be using an F Dorian, or if we think we're anchored down to that C, we could have a C Aeolian scale. That string theme that we had earlier on has now been passed into the cello and the double basses. We still have the relentless horn call. notes, those triplets coming back again before we change key. Another theme to keep your eye out, so the descending string patterns. Here just on the rip before number 5. At this point, Vaughan Williams sets up an A minor chord. Beautifully we go into E major, a distant key. There it's like the sun came in, a chorale theme, House of Beautiful. An open door shall be set before thee, and no man may shut it. Really is a beautiful section. Stunning. Woodwinds caught that melody again up at the top there. Strings take that over. I love how Vaughan Williams uses the horns here with the woodwind. Bassoons. There's the same horn call, but in a different set of notes. There's the descending string pattern again that we heard earlier. So now we've got an extended theme from the bass from earlier on, and this starts to speed up and accelerate. This section really developed, and we end up with what we call a big tutty section. Fabulous how he's just punctuating these strings with the horn and also the woodwind from above. You listen how powerful that is. Without that, this wouldn't have this orchestration, this beautiful orchestration that it has. Key again. There's woodwind coming in, punctuating this ever-growing, winding up string section. Tremolo markings on the strings. The brass is building to a big tutti, we go to a big brass chord. Theme starts to wind down at this point. Recognise that? The horn theme's back. Low strings. The string call that we heard in the first opening page. The bass bit expanded a little bit. building a little. The theme from earlier. Second page, now supported with the woodwind, the flute on top doubling with the first violin. Trumpet solo coming through. Tutti section, everybody in. Beautiful horn call before the coda. Symphony, rolling back and forth down the fill line. Just the horns and that trumpet. Woodwind, strings, that lilting horn call we've heard before. It's been throughout the piece, building now, building up. Everybody's playing here, beautifully orchestrated. We're building, descending through, we've seen so many times. There's a string call we heard again on page 2. The horns will echo that in a moment, and the trumpets. Low strings doubling. Theme again, but disturbed slightly. Kind of an elongated version of that sighing horn in the woodwinds. Yeah, Vaughan Williams teases everything in the way it began, because it began from as if we'd already missed the start, didn't it? It began as if we'd missed a little bit. A horn call again. The theme in the strings from the second page. There's a horn call, consort with mutes. There's the mutes. There's the mutes there on the horns. And it ends like it simply left us behind. Thank you for watching this video. I know you'll agree this is a fabulous, fabulous piece which influences many of us composers, including those great film composers. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. Bye for now.